Today we are mostly be forging a dovetail or bench chisel. Right guys, I've got a 7 stack there of 20 layers each, so I'm going to forge that down into 140 layers. I'm going to stick it to 2 pieces of 01 tool steel, and I'm going to forge out a dovetail or mortise chisel for my mate Shep. And so this is how I do forge welding without using borax. So I heat the billet up to just an orange, the camera's showing it hotter than it is, and then I just push the pieces together just to get them flat so no oxygen can get between them. And if you do that, they're not going to scale up on you. This is the second heat. Again, just a little quick press. I did that again, and now I'm just going to push the sides of the billet down and get it all nice and even, because using the press bows the middle out usually. I'll just carry on doing that, shaping it. Again, it's squared up, and then I'm just going to start forging the bevel in at the front a little bit. Continue doing a bit more forging there because I want to push the pattern down so that when I grind it there is some pattern on the front of the bevel, on the front of the chisel, if you get me. You can see the thicker section on the left, and that's kind of for the tang or the bolster on this chisel, and I'm going to cut some grooves in it now so we can get a bit of a ladder pattern going on. And if you see on the sides, I've cut them deeper because I want to push that down so that it shows again on the sides of the chisel when it's ground. If I don't cut the sides deeper, there won't be any pattern visible when I grind the chisel down. So just keeping it flat, just checking it against the width. I've got a width line drawn on the end of the anvil there, and I'm just pushing those bevel edges in now so that we'll have some eventual pattern when we come to grind this. I put it over the press there and I push the tang end out so that I can form a tang and a bolster beneath it. I'm just going to do a bit of shaping on that now, get it where I want it. Just playing around on the anvil really, because I've never done one of these before, so I'm just trying to get the shape right, and I'm trying to keep the back of the chisel dead flat, because I do know about chisels, having used them all my life. I'm putting a little set down there, and then behind that set line I'm just going to draw that out as just a round tang or a square tang. I ended up doing a round tang, and that's what will go inside the handle. I put that over the press a couple of times and just drew it out, and there was a lot of backwards and forwards here, giving it good coats of looking at, straightening it, checking it, bending it, and eventually I got it right. And then I went on to do the grinding on it. The first job really was to get the back dead flat, and the 01 was a little bit thicker than the Damascus. So I kind of took a little bit more of the 01 off, because so I'd have some Damascus left on the finished chisel. And I just went backwards and forwards, shaping the bolsters, shaping the transition in from the actual chisel to the handle, them 2 nice shoulders, and making sure the back was dead flat. Grinding in the bevels took quite a while because the chisel tapers from the back to the front. It's just a more usable chisel that way. And then I ground off the tang end and rounded over the tang on the top there. I thought about putting it on the lathe, but I ended up just doing it on the belt, and that's where I've got to after the grinding. I'll do a bit of cleaning up after heat treating, but it looks like a chisel. Just filing them shoulders there so that I'm going to make a bolster for this, another bolster, because I don't want to drop the wood directly on that little narrow sort of tang there. So I'm going to make another bolster for it, slightly bigger, out of Damascus. So I'm just squaring that up so that it'll all seat against it nicely. While I was forging out the chisel, I also forged down this bar, which was some cut off ends from the restacking. And I forged that down. I don't know how many layers there is. There's not too many. I'm going to drill a hole through the centre of that, a 9mm hole, so the tang slides through it, and then I'm going to shape it on the grinder. Yeah, it fits pretty good on there. It'll fit up nice. Just do a little bit more filing. You see it's nearly there now. So I took it on the grinder, just set the fence to an angle and just ground it down. I was going to leave it octagonal, but I changed my mind, and I decided to just flare it out as the, you know, the natural progression progression of the chisel. I do a bit of sanding here now, and heat treating was a nightmare because it took on a severe warp. This, I thought it might do, being kind of jacketed with 1095 and 15 and 2001. It severely warped towards the 01 side, so I had to do multiple tempers to just get this thing straight again. Then when I cleaned it up and did a quick etch, and there was a lot of decarb on it from the normalizing and grain refining, so I had to regrind again, and then I made a little error hand grinding the bevels on the side, so I had to correct that, and here I am just cleaning that up now. So after sanding it for the second time, I'd had enough at this point, so it is what it is now, and it's ready for etching, and we're nearly there. I'm going to show you what I've done, but first I'm using a piece of ash for the handle. I like ash because I like to see ash on wood chisels. A lot of mine are ash wood. It's a tough wood, very shock proof. I'm just going to sand this up. I'm going to epoxy it onto that tang. So we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly on the reveal. You don't have to jump forward. We're going to be there in a second. So here we are with a quick cutting test. Just see how it cuts, and it cuts and slices really nice. Lovely clean cut. It also benefits from a reverse function. It's kind of like the back button on your browser, where you just press that and you can undo what you just did. It also cuts a nice straight line, or a V-groove, should you want to cut a V-groove in the end of a board. That's with the bevel down, just used for chamfering. Again, the reverse function in bevel down mode as well. Yes, works really nicely. There's a chisel. Very happy with the way it came out. I love the pattern. I love the banding on the feather. The little ferrule at the top, I think it's called. I left that etched a little bit darker because it's a nice little contrast. Slipped a piece of brass in there as an accent. The ferrule, I actually welded it on from the top, so it was like a cone really. So on the tang I ran a bead of weld around it, so it's all locked down in place. It's not going to go anywhere. It's a really nicely weighted chisel as well, and as I said, it tapers towards the front, and there's that little ferrule I made out of the scrap pieces of damascus. Came out okay actually. So this is the feather, and what am I going to do with it? I think I'm going to make this, guys. I'm not going to risk cutting it in half. So I'm going to have a go at making a Bowie knife out of it. Probably try and get to 7.5 inches if I can. There it is. And I took a while drawing the actual pattern on the template, and it's uncanny how it matches that billet. So that will probably be the next one, guys. I don't know, unless something else crops up in the meantime and I change my mind and need to mull over it some longer. Thanks to my patrons. Thanks you all for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.